Metroidvanias are one of my favorite types of games to play, but naturally I haven't played them all. I haven't even played some of the big names in Metroidvania, but we'll get to that later. Some games in the genre have more Metroidvania-inspired elements than others, even among the Castlevania and Metroid games that the genre is named for. But even more linear Metroidvanias, like Metroid Fusion, are really fun. There's just something about this kind of game that I can't get enough of. There are plenty of them in my backlog too, especially on Steam. It's worth noting that I could have filled half of this list with the GBA and DS Castlevania games I haven't played yet, because there are several of those. But my Steam backlog is too massive, so in an effort to shrink it a bit, most of these games are from Steam. Most. And just a heads up, here's a list of all the Metroidvanias I've already played, so you won't be seeing any of these on the list. Maybe you've played the games on this list already, or maybe you'll learn about a cool new game and add it to your own backlog. Nothing on here is too obscure, but the extremely well-known Metroidvanias like Super Metroid, Symphony of the Night, and Hollow Knight aren't listed here because I've already played those, so the games on this list aren't as well-known as those. Mostly. Again, we'll get to that. Now, on with the list. Minoria is from the developer of the Momodora series, Bomb Service, and after I played Momodora Reverie Under the Moonlight, I was naturally curious about Minoria. A few unfavorable comments on Reddit initially made me lose interest in it, but after watching Indie Mouse's video on the game, it looked fun, and I'm back on board. Visually, it has taken a few steps away from the 2D pixel art of the Momodora series, mixing in some 3D elements. It still looks pretty good though, especially the backgrounds. The developer's experience in 2D art definitely shines through in those. Momodora Reverie Under the Moonlight was a short but satisfying Metroidvania, and I'm hoping Minoria is an equally good experience. A reboot of the 1989 arcade game of the same name, Strider is a side-scrolling action platformer where you control a high-tech ninja named Strider Hiryu. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know much about this game. It's in my Steam library, it looked kind of cool, and it has the Metroidvania tag, so, you know, here we are. The reviews on Steam are currently very positive overall and mixed recently. There were only 12 recent reviews at the time of writing though, so I'm not too concerned about them. This title might be a bit lighter on Metroidvania elements, but the fast-paced, intense combat system sounds exciting, and makes this game one I definitely want to check out. Castlevania Lords of Shadow Mirror of Fate was originally a 3DS game, but an HD port was released for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 later in 2013, and it finally released on Steam in 2014. The other entries in the Castlevania Lords of Shadow subseries are all 3D third-person games, but this one is a 2D game. I mean, it has 3D graphics, which is fine, but it plays in 2D. I'd heard this was a decent Metroidvania, and being a fan of Castlevania games like Symphony of the Night and Aria of Sorrow, the premise of a vaguely similar game on PC was enough for me to buy it. It was only when researching for this video that I realized it was developed by Mercury Steam, the same developer who co-developed Metroid Samus Returns alongside Nintendo. Knowing that, I'm definitely more interested in this game, since Mercury Steam did great work with the Metroid series. Guacamelee is a Metroidvania that draws heavily from Mexican culture and folklore, putting players in the shoes of an agave farmer turned luchador as they explore and brawl their way through the land of the living and the land of the dead. I've heard great things about Guacamelee. The several editions that exist of it are a little confusing to a newcomer like me, though. Like, should I play Guacamelee Gold Edition or Guacamelee Super Turbo Championship Edition? In this case, my Steam library decided for me, because I already owned Super Turbo Championship Edition. But I don't remember where I got it, or how long it's been there. That happens to me a lot with my Steam library. Anyway, one Google search later, and I've learned that Super Turbo Championship Edition is the most fully featured definitive edition of Guacamelee 1. So it's nice that that's the version I own and will be playing. Control is a 3D, third-person action-adventure game with a bunch of supernatural and mysterious elements. You'll explore the Federal Bureau of Control, digging through the dark secrets within, unleashing supernatural powers like telekinesis. Fun fact about Control on Steam: Control Ultimate Edition is the only version that shows up in the store when you search for it, but the Standard Edition is available. It's some sort of sub-package of Control Ultimate Edition, and it's the version I own because of the March 2021 Humble Choice. So, I see Control Ultimate Edition in my Steam library, since that's the name of the parent game on Steam, but all I really own is the Standard Edition. It's weird, let's move on. Here's the big question. Is Control a Metroidvania? There's a lot of disagreement about this online. I'll form my own opinion once I play it myself, but from what I've read and seen, it probably leans less toward Metroidvania and more toward third-person shooter. In any case though, there's definitely Metroidvania elements and influence here, and I'm excited to see what those elements end up being, as well as experience a game that was nominated for several Game of the Year awards in 2019 and 2020. Introducing the first non-PC game on the list, Castlevania Order of Ecclesia for the Nintendo DS. This game has a similar system to the Souls system of Aria of Sorrow and Dawn of Sorrow. In Order of Ecclesia, enemies have a chance to drop glyphs when defeated, which give you new combat abilities. Basically the same system as the Sorrow games, just with a different name, and I'm happy to see this feature return. On Metacritic, Order of Ecclesia has the same critic score as the previous entry in the series, Portrait of Ruin, both with a score of 85. In light of that, I'll probably try Portrait of Ruin someday as well, but Order of Ecclesia takes priority because I've heard Portrait has several areas that are quite linear. That's not something I particularly mind, but if Order of Ecclesia is a bit more non-linear, then that's the one I want to play first. I'm pretty sure the developer, Red Black Spade, is just one person. I'm not 100% sure if they created everything in Cat Maze alone, or if they had help with parts, so I can't accurately say if this game was made entirely by one person, but it was at least mostly made by one person. Judging by the art style, it seems the developer of Cat Maze was inspired by the Momodora games, and that's a good thing if you ask me, because it looks great. Cat Maze looks to be a pretty standard Metroidvania, with ability upgrades, collectibles, boss battles, and all the usual fare. Sometimes, all you really want is a game that stays true to the Metroidvania formula. A comfort food game. Mac and cheese in video game form. I think that's what Cat Maze will be, and I'm looking forward to it. Mechanically, The Messenger seems to play a bit like the NES Ninja Gaiden games, with some extra Metroidvania flair. I haven't played the Ninja Gaiden games myself, so I can't speak from personal experience, but I swear I watched a review or something where that comparison was made. The Completionist? Maybe? The Messenger has a time travel mechanic where the level changes a bit and the visuals swap from 8-bit era to 16-bit era graphics when traveling through time. It looks really cool in the trailers, and I want to experience that mechanic myself. The 2D sprite work in both visual styles is super good, and the movement seems awesome too, with tight wall jumping mechanics and a grappling hook that launches you through the air. I've seen nothing but praise for the Messenger online, and that's why I have it so high on this list. I want to see what all the hype is about. Axiom Verge is one of the essential Metroidvanias, one of the ones every fan of the genre has played, and uses to frame their experiences with Metroidvanias they play afterward. At least, that's how it always seems when I'm browsing the Metroidvania subreddit. Obviously, not every Metroidvania fan has played it though. I sure haven't, but not for lack of interest. The only reason I haven't already played Axiom Verge is because I only bought it on Steam recently. A lot of Metroidvanias I've played on Steam have been part of bundles in the past or gone on really nice sales. Axiom Verge, on the other hand, tends to have just modest sales, so I've put off buying it for a long time. I finally grabbed it a few months ago though, and it's time to see what all the fuss is about. One last mention before moving on. Axiom Verge was also developed by just one person, Thomas Happ. Development began in 2010, and the initial release was May 14th, 2015. Making any kind of game is hard, but seeing a solo dev make a critically acclaimed game like this one is extra impressive. I don't know if Iconoclasts plays anything like it, but I'm strongly reminded of Cave Story from what's shown in the trailers. The UI, entering buildings, and the characters and dialogue, all of it just reminds me a little bit of Cave Story. And I loved Cave Story! But besides that, the pixel art and animation in this game is just stunning in the trailers on the Steam store page. It's super vibrant, and the animation is really fluid. Even more impressive, this game was also made by just one developer over the course of 10 years. Joachim Konjak Sandberg is listed as developer, designer, and composer on the game's Wikipedia page. The fact that Konjak continued working on Iconoclasts and saw it through to release after such a long development cycle is inspiring, and a real testament to what a determined solo developer can accomplish. Iconoclasts looks incredible, and seems to have its fair share of charm. For those reasons, it secured the top spot in my Metroidvania backlog. So there you have it. Those are the next 10 Metroidvanias I intend to play. I realize now that I didn't put AM2R on this list, but that's because I already included it in the top 10 fan-made games in my backlog post I made a while back on the blog, so I didn't think of double dipping with it for this video. I do plan on playing it though, because it also looks really good and I've heard great things about it. Consider it an honorable mention for this list. Also, before I forget, I've heard really good things on the Metroidvania subreddit about Environmental Station Alpha. I just haven't bought it yet. I'll pick it up eventually. Have you played any of the games in this list, and what did you think of them if you have? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, take care.